Hello, and welcome to Season 2, Race 16 of my F1 24 My Team Career Mode with Rockstar Energy Racing. And we are here in Las Vegas for the Las Vegas Grand Prix, and it's the season finale with three drivers fighting for the championship. And while Carlos Sainz is on pole, with Oscar Piastri in second, I have qualified at P3, and surprisingly, Ollie Behrman, my teammate, qualified at P4. So Oliver Behrman, easy for me to say, his best qualifying effort by far of the entire season. And not only that, but it gives me a slight buffer, to my two title rivals, Charles Leclerc and Lando Norris, who are 5th and 6th in the running order. So very fascinating qualifying session with how that turned out. A quick reminder of the championship standings. On the constructor side, it's come down to McLaren and Ferrari. I feel like it's going to take a massive bottle job by McLaren for them to lose it. It feels like it's theirs to lose. And this would be, I believe, the second year in a row that they would win the Constructors' Championship. But then on the driver standing side, as I mentioned in the previous video, it's very tight up top. Charles Leclerc leads by 2 points over Lando Norris. I am 8 points back, so I kind of made a mistake in my calculation. I thought I was the one in second when I was going into this, but I'm actually the one in third. So I have a little bit more work to do than Leclerc and Norris. Basically, for Leclerc and Norris, whoever, if I'm not a factor, whichever one of them wins or finishes ahead of the other wins the championship, essentially. I'm 8 points back, so I need to score. If I win and Leclerc finishes second, I would still lose the championship by 1 point, and Leclerc would win it. So it's, for me, it's really going to come down to like where Leclerc and Norris are running in the race versus where I'm running in the race. That's going to be what really decides everything, I think. But the good thing is he got the upper hand in qualifying. So right off the bat, we have the advantage going into the race. So basically my best shot at winning this championship is just going out there and winning the race, and then because that's really that's the best I can do, is just win the race. And whatever happens behind me happens behind me. I don't really have a ton of control over that. So yeah, that's really the best I can do, is just go out there and try to win the race, and see what happens from there. Yeah, for some reason I thought I was in second when I was actually in third. And 8 points out isn't a lot. It's not a lot, but if we were like further back in the top 10, it'd be a lot harder for me to battle to get those points. Whereas if if I'm leading the race, there's a big enough point gap between first and second that it makes it easier for me to make that jump. So let's go to the workstation. So I do have a lot of resource points, so I think I'm gonna put in these upgrades now. So we'll go to the aerodynamics. We'll get a major upgrade on the rear downforce. Chassis side. Engine cover. That's a minor. Let's see. Okay, I can do that. So I think I'm now going to do here, I'm going to get the hydraulics on this. And then I'm going to get an engine one here. So I'll have a bunch of different components coming in after the season finale that will carry us over into the new season. And just to recap some of the results, so I have 3 victories, but I have not won a race since the 5th race of the year in Miami. So that's interesting there. Charles Leclerc has only won twice, so it's funny that myself and Leclerc, who are the 2 big title contenders, we've each won 3 races apiece. Though we have not won in the last 5, neither of us have won in the last 5 races. Lando Norris has won 4 races, all of those coming in the second half of the season. It's funny how he has a win at DNF. He has that second half of the year. He has the 13th at first, the DNF for first, the 4th first, the 6th and the first. So every other race he's seemingly winning. Oscar Piastri looked like one of the early title contenders. He has 3 wins. The consistency just hasn't been there for him, which is part of the reason why he's out of it right now. And then Sainz won a race, and then Russell won a race. So it's notable that Verstappen has not won a race. Lewis Hamilton has not won a race. So yeah, that's what things are looking like. So there is a bit of weather. I think it's sort of like Singapore, where it's like going to come in like at the very end. Might not be enough for actual wet weather tires, but we'll see. But yeah, should be exciting. Season finale, Las Vegas. Let's get into it.
Welcome to Las Vegas, and for Formula One, it's welcome back to Las Vegas. No longer do we race in the Caesars Palace car park. Tonight, the time is right to go racing in the street. Well, tonight we go racing around the bright lights of Las Vegas, 3.8 miles under the Nevada night sky and thousands of neon lights. There are landmarks everywhere you look, punctuating the 17 corners and 2 DRS zones. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. It's Carlos Sainz in pole position, and Golden Boy completes the front row. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Behrman, Leclerc, Norris, Fernando Alonso, Perez, Ocon, Oscar Piastri, Gasly, Tsunoda, Russell, Stroll, Magnussen, Hamilton, Bottas, Joe, Verstappen, Albon, Hulkenberg, Théo Pourchaire, and Logan Sargent. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race. And striding into our commentary box to join us today, the man, the myth, the legend, Anthony Davidson. I don't know about you, Ant, but it seems like only a couple of weeks ago we were talking ahead of the first race. Here we are, ahead of the last race. This year has just flown by.
Yeah, a lot of races to cover these days in Formula One, Crofty, as you well know, doing them all yourself. But it's the same for the drivers. It comes at you thick and fast, and you've got to pace yourself as well to get to this point in the season. If it has gone your way, it's a great time to just enjoy it. There's nothing that can change in the championship pecking order, of course. If you've won the championship already, go out and enjoy this race and send yourself off through the winter break. If it's been a bit of a year to forget, you can try and take a bit of solace in this Grand Prix, end on a high and carry that energy into next season.
The formation lap gets underway and every driver will be looking to settle in for the race ahead, making sure that their car is ready for the battle once the lights go out. So as all the cars take their positions on the grid, the teams will be hoping their strategies pay off for them in today's race. But the question I'm asking is which teams have got it right and which ones have got it horribly wrong?
DRS is being enabled this lap. We can use DRS when you're within 1 second of the car ahead and in the DRS zone. No tyre concerns at the moment, just focus on the driving. Come on, you can win that place back. Green flag. Battery charge is high, let's use that overtake button a bit more. Okay, no issues with tyre wear for now. Keep taking care of them. We're approaching the pit window now, and you're going to be on hards next time. Pitting this lap then. Come into the pits at the end of this lap. Copy that. Hards next time we box. Right, let's have you in at the end of this lap, please. Okay, we can take you this lap. Copy that. Hards next time we box.
And it looks like the pit crew are out in the lane and ready to perform their magic on the car. They're going to be aiming to achieve the fastest pit stop time possible.
Pit strategy. Complete. See these tyres through to the end now. Watch out for understeer in the wake of the car ahead. Try to get past as quickly as you can. Push, push. No need to worry about the tyre condition for now. Everything's looking good. Right, Ollie's coming in for his stop. Okay, gap to the car ahead, 7.4 seconds. Ollie's in the pits. Ollie in the pits now. Gap to your teammate behind, 6.3 seconds. tyre condition still looking good. We've got a lot of spare energy, okay to use your overtake button. Okay, so we're leading our teammate by 5.9 seconds. Okay, so all of our tyre pressure data is currently reading 0. Assuming they still look inflated to you, we're going to guess that it's just a bad sensor. Shouldn't be anything to worry about. Might see some rain, ETA about 15 minutes. No tyre concerns at the moment, just focus on the driving. Let's use overtake and burn off some of this energy. Okay, you've just started the final lap of the race. Final lap. Rain is forecast in just over 10 minutes' time. Rain in 10 minutes. champion. Oh, what a win, what a season. We are going to celebrate hard tonight, my friends. Bring the car home. Nice one.
Well, it's certainly been an incredible year for Formula One, and our drivers have all pushed themselves this season, making it one of the most compelling years of racing in history. There can only be one champion, however, and here they are now, our new Formula One World Drivers' Champion. They've done it then. Victory in the last race of the season and the championship as well. What a phenomenal end to a terrific Formula One season. Here comes your top three making their way down to the podium for what can only be described as a fantastic day for Formula One. So let's celebrate the end of the season, but I know a lot of you will be very sad out there thinking, what are you going to do without Formula One? Don't worry, folks, it'll be back before you know it. We'll see you next year.
And that was the Las Vegas Grand Prix. And as you saw, I won the Drivers' World Championship in my second season over Norris and Leclerc. So essentially what happened is I took the lead, had a pack of cars behind me pretty much up until the pit stop sequence. I came out and actually built a pretty sizable lead, about 5 seconds, 4 seconds in that range, flirted down to 3 seconds, sort of, it hovered in that range. And Norris and Leclerc were battling for second. And as it stood there, I would have been fine if Norris finished second, because I was 6 points behind Norris coming into this race. And if Leclerc finished third, I would have gained the points I needed to gain on him, because I was behind him by 8. And if he finished third, I would have gained 10 by winning. And Norris would have finished second, which would have given him 18. 18 versus 25. I would have been ahead by, I think, a point. I would have won the championship by 1 point over Lando Norris had Lando Norris finished second. But then I think on like the second to last lap, I saw that Sainz had passed Norris for third, which wouldn't help me because if I had won and Leclerc finished second, Leclerc would have won the championship because I was behind by 8 points. Leclerc would have won the championship by 1 point over me, and I was not in the position to get the fastest lap. So what I decided to do on sort of that penultimate lap and then into the last lap was sort of back off a little bit, bring the pack back to me, and then coming off that tight left-hander onto the boulevard, just duck under, let Leclerc get ahead of me just enough that he could get the DRS, and with a pack of cars behind him, hope that some of them would pass him because he had no DRS, and we all had DRS aside from him. And ultimately, Sainz, well, I'm sure he didn't want to. He got past Leclerc for second, and then Norris got by Leclerc for third, which at that point, Sainz was second, so it didn't matter. I just needed them both to finish third, or worse. But that's basically what ended up happening. I just had to play a little DRS chicken there. Where I basically had to, like I mentioned, sort of back up to the pack, let Leclerc get by me ever so slightly, and then with the other cars behind us, just let them do the work. And I had used that period of time where I was ahead by several seconds to save up my ERS, so that if I needed it, I could use it on the last lap and get a real shot down that long straightaway in the event that I needed to do what I did. And it all worked out in the end. I am the world champion for Season 2. As we check at the championship standings, it was actually a tie in second place. Leclerc and Norris tied 4 points back, but in the end, I secured the Drivers' Championship in an incredible battle all season long with Norris and Leclerc. Norris, who really wasn't doing great, but he came back strong in the second half of the year, that's where he won all of his races. And on the constructor side, in the end, Ferrari gained a little bit, but they were not able to catch McLaren. So that is where things stand there. And yeah. And I'm going to see if I can actually go to the replay here and go to that last lap and sort of show you what was going on. See, I was hoping that in the battling with Leclerc and Norris, that Leclerc would get passed for fourth, which would make my job a little easier. But that didn't happen. So it was really right here, coming to 2 to go, where Sainz got a big run on Norris and passed him for third. And at that point, I really had 2 laps to sort of sort this out. Was, okay, I gotta, I have to get myself more involved here. And I thought, well, maybe Sainz could pass Leclerc, but that didn't really happen. So it was really the last 2 laps I started just backing down a little bit to allow the pack to catch up to me. And I was hoping, oh, maybe Sainz will pass. Because again, the thing was, for me to win the championship, I had to win the race. There was really no other way, because the point deficit to me and Leclerc was 8 points. I needed to win the race to win the championship. So I had to sort of juggle that with, trying to maintain first place. They're holding station there, as you can see. We're on the last lap of the race. Yep, and I basically allow Leclerc to get into my DRS range, and then in this final, or not the final corner, but the sharp left-hander here, I duck down to the bottom and slow down and basically allow him to get ahead of me just enough so that he does not get DRS and I get DRS. And with the pack of cars behind me, I figure, okay, I at least one of these guys can pass him. But to be fair, Sainz sort of stuck behind him until he couldn't. And then Norris, I think, tried to take it 3 wide. Or he would have made it 3 wide if they were still side by side, but he basically followed Sainz through. And at that point, it didn't matter who finished 3rd, because that was pretty much it. I just needed 1 car, and that 1 car is enough, so that is how the last 2 laps of this race played out, and that's how the championship was decided. Season 2, I am the Drivers' World Champion. Looking through the rest of the results, Ollie Behrman got his best result of the season in 7th. Oscar Piastri in 8th. Lance Stroll, Pierre Gasly rounding out the top 10. Max Verstappen and Red Bull were really not contenders at all to that entire race. Both finished outside the points. And Lewis Hamilton, the only DNF of the race. So there you go. That was the Las Vegas Grand Prix, and we are the World Drivers' Champions. So yeah, that was a pretty interesting finale. And I went into this race knowing that I had to win the race to win the championship, and I was really excited when my qualifying effort, 'cause throughout this entire career mode, qualifying has been such a struggle, and to go at a track where in F123 I was really good at, but I hadn't run really at all on this game yet, the Las Vegas track. I was just hoping, okay, I hope things go well. I hope we get a good qualifying run, and I did. And that set the stage for
Our
everything
margins
that
are looking
came
good
in the
right
race.
now. I think we've got room for some more investment.
All right. Thank you for watching the season finale of Season 2 at Las Vegas, and next time will be the prologue for Season 3. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.